Good evening. Welcome to my channel. My video, my video actually stopped. I don't know why it stopped. It just stopped abruptly. And please watch the other videos I was recording. Welcome to my channel again. And like I said, I was talking about a group called the Wagner Group. It's a uh, Russian-based private army. Uh, some people say the group is actually being controlled by Russia, by Putin. This private army is called Wagner Group. Wagner is spelled as Wagner Group. And this is actually when I said I was going to talk about the cost of living. Cost of living is going to be related to the war in Ukraine. But the most important aspect of the cost of living is actually capitalism. Capitalism is actually everything is becoming private. It was private in the first place, but we were being told there was some aspect of public economy happening. But I think that was actually smoke screen to protect capitalism. I think capitalism has always been the mode of operating power, yeah, whether you're in the west or in the east. But now, because now they are coming home to roost, and in China, in Russia, leave a comment below if you think Russia is a capitalist state. If you think you know something about communism or socialism, let me know. But I think the what we have is now capitalism is this global, and it is in China, in Russia. Like I said in the previous video, and like I said, this video, it cut off accidentally. I don't know. It has not happened like this before. There's a group called Wagner. This is a fighting force. I'm told they're the main fighting force now, fighting in Ukraine on the Russian side, and they have their own system. They almost have their own government, private government. But you see, when you talk about private government, you're probably contradicting yourself, because I think most governments are private anyway. Because there could be some branding to say, there's a public sector. I think public sector is a myth. It never existed. Yeah, it's just, I mean, I think the public sector was actually created to cover up private sector. We have been talking about the public because we think the public actually is the majority. We created something called citizenship. I think citizenship doesn't exist. I think it's a myth. I think because we are talking about slavery. The citizens are actually slaves. They are made to work for the rulers, for the rich. I mean, if you work for a living, you're poor, and you are the system. The capitalism is created to for the rulers, for the few, for the rich to exploit the poor. So it's a system of exploitation of man by man. It was like that from the beginning of when men decided to rule over other men. Why would you rule somebody so that you can exploit them? If you have power over somebody else, they become your slave. You are their master. I think that is what it is. What people should really think about. If you are actually in a country and you have to work for a living, you're a slave. You may feel good about being a slave because there are slaves who actually love their masters in history, historical. You build relationship with your master, and sometimes you even, if you're a woman, and most of these masters are actually men. I don't know if mistresses are now slave masters, mistresses. I mean, they are like owners of slaves. Because if somebody controls you, they own you. You're their property. Citizens are the property of the rich because they always work for them. They are for nothing. They don't get paid. If they are paid, the money is taken back away from them through taxation, through cost of living. The cost of living is a form of tax on the poor. It's the way rich people take money away from the poor. So you work for your money, and you need necessities like food, energy, housing, transport. Those are necessities. Healthcare, education. These are necessities. It's necessary. If you don't go to school, you will not have a stake in society. You will not be a good slave. You can even be put in prison. Because if you are not useful to a master, then you are good for nothing. People actually, as slaves, they try to survive. They're trying to impress their masters. You impress your master and long enough, they might even like you. They might even promote you into being somebody important. Somebody like a cross between the master and the slave. Some of them are called CEOs, direct company directors, politicians, members of parliament, or military officers, police officers, law officers like judges. These are actually slaves who are now on their way to becoming masters, because society is growing, capitalism is growing in power. The complexity, the idea of slave and master relationship, slavery and mastery is now changing. There are, you know, they are more middle class. These are actually, they are the most spooky group of people, because they are neither here nor there. They are neither masters nor slaves, but they are more on the master side than, maybe I think they spy for masters, because they are closer to masters than to slaves. People like the CEO, directors, chairman, chair of, say, maybe health and social care, or some other the state program, minister, permanent secretary, executive officers, executive, whoever they are, yourself, your administrators. You're all private. I mean, I used to think there was public sector. Now I know there was never any public sector. There was something just like smoke screen set to make people think there was public sector. Because the idea of public was actually, or republic was actually freedom, independence. There has never been any freedom. There is no freedom. People are made to think they're citizens. Citizens have rights. But slaves don't have rights. If you're a citizen, you should have rights. People don't have rights. People are made to believe that they have rights. How can you have rights if you pay taxes? You see, masters don't pay taxes, in the sense that whatever they pay as taxes are symbolic, because it doesn't actually impact on their wealth and power. If somebody punches you to the face and you don't even feel it, you don't feel the pain. The puncher of your face is the one suffering. So that is what happened with the rulers, the ruling class, the masters. They're so powerful, they're so rich that things like taxation doesn't really. They can pay tax. It's like King Charles coming to sweep the street. He knows he's only doing it for the camera. He's sweeping the street to impress, just to make people happy. He doesn't sweep the street. He doesn't even. He will be lucky if he even bathes himself. Maybe he doesn't want people to see his nakedness, so he wouldn't want people to bathe him. Otherwise, he would even want people to bathe him. Maybe he does. Maybe members of the royal, because they're so wealthy. And a lot of rich people, multi-billionaires, hundreds of billions of pounds of dollars, US dollars. That's a lot of money. So I was talking about the war in Ukraine and China. I'm trying to look at a private army called the Wagner, WAGNE. They have their official logo. They called the Wagner Group. So the Russians private army, and they are they're funded by the Russian government. That is typical with private military, and that's why I say, we used to talk about the public sector, but I think we were lied to. Everything was private from the start. Now they are coming to do it openly. to avoid any doubt. Technology is coming; they are going to get more power even. And I'm not saying they're going to do anything wrong. They're but poor people will be suffering anyway from poverty. And they can suffer from other things as well. I'll leave a comment below if you think slaves are going to be suffering from something. Slave masters are very nice people when they are nice, except that you don't know, you can't determine what a master is going to do to a slave. Because if he has a gun, he can shoot you dead. Like it happens in Africa. I mean, African dictators are like that. If you want to learn the properties of slavery, go to Africa. I'm an African, I know what I'm talking about. Go and look at African dictators right now. They can do whatever they like. And the head of state can say something like, I can kill you if I want. And he can kill you also. Mostly men. Very few women are actually political rulers. So this, if you know anything about the Wagner Group, leave a comment below. If you don't know anything about the Wagner Group, you can still leave a comment below. Now, the thing about when I look at this material, one thing I really found intriguing was how, for me, how complicated it is to pronounce Russian names. And if you like Russian names, leave a comment below, let me know. And if you find it really, really very easy to pronounce, it sounds a bit like African names. The way it's written is a bit complicated, and I've been trying to look at this material. The founder of the Wagner Group is somebody called Yevgen Prigozhin. Prigozhin. I'll leave a comment below if you know Yevgen Prigozhin. Yevgen, I don't know if it is Yevgen or Yevgeny. Okay, let me call it Yevgeny Prigozhin. Okay, let me pronounce it Yevgeny Prigozhin. Prigozhin. Leave a comment below. The man who founded the Wagner Group is called Yevgeny Prigozhin. Yevgen Prigozhin. Now I have to really learn this because it's a bit like a speech therapy to me. Pronouncing Russian name is really really exciting, and it's something you can really enjoy doing. And this founder, the founder of the Wagner Group, I learned how to pronounce Wagner Group yesterday when I saw it on BBC Parliament. They were taking evidence in Britain on the BBC Parliament channel, and they were talking about the Wagner Group. They were actually asking extremely complicated questions. I couldn't even understand what they're talking about on the TV. And I decided to go and Google to find out what it was. Actually, I found that they were actually a group of fighters in Russia who are actually deployed in Ukraine. And there are allegations on them that have having really caused a lot of atrocities. They are very violent. They have really strange philosophies and doctrines, and they are highly organized. They are highly funded by the Russian government. They are in Africa. They are in the Middle East. They do operations globally. I talk about globalization. Globalization is as much as it promotes other things. It also promotes war and violence across the globe in Africa and the Middle East and elsewhere. So the Wagner, I found them to be really. I was so shocked to see there is a private military in China called the Wagner Group. I've never heard of them. I heard of them yesterday when they were talking about the group in Parliament, in the British Parliament. So I found that the founder is Yevgeny Prigozhin. Prigozhin. Prigozhin is a really, really nice name. Yevgen Prigozhin. Yevgen Prigozhin. So the leaders are Lieutenant Colonel Dmitry. Dmitry is really, it's a name I can live with. Dmitry is a very familiar name. Um, I like the name even. These are some of the leaders. It's a Lieutenant Colonel Dmitry Otkin. Otkin. In bracket, Wagner. So Lieutenant Colonel Dmitry Utkin Wagner. That's one of the leaders of the Wagner group. Lieutenant Colonel Dmitry Utkin Wagner. If you know Lieutenant Colonel Dmitry Utkin Wagner, then let me know. Leave a comment below. Tell me more about the Lieutenant Colonel. Is one of the leaders of the Wagner group in Russia. Private military prosecuting war. They are the main fighting force. According to this material, they are very powerful and extremely, extremely ruthless. And that's what the world probably needs, because we are a very violent world. And I think, sometimes if you're involved in violence, you have to really do it properly. And otherwise you're not going to survive. I mean, if you set up a system of violence, then you're in a situation whether if you actually don't kill somebody, they will kill you. That is war. That is actually the reality of warfare. If you go to war, some people actually they watch movies, they think war is a good thing. But see, once you're involved in warfare, your predicament, if you're a soldier, you kill somebody or they kill you. So the violence escalates in a state of war. So in Ukraine now, people are really dying in Ukraine. The Russians are really killing a lot of people. Don't think the Ukrainians are not killing Russians. Russians are killing a lot of Ukrainians. Ukrainians are killing a lot of Russians. This group is a group I found, and I felt, in talking about this group on this program, will help us to see what I said elsewhere about capitalism, and also what I said elsewhere about war, and the war in Ukraine being, caused by the global politics. If there was no global politics, there wouldn't be war in Ukraine. There wouldn't be the cost of living either. So these things actually have causal effect in their interactions, in their relations. So I will be talking about them going forward. The other one, the first one is Colonel Dmitry Utkin Wagner. These are some of the leaders. The founder is Yevgen Prigozhin. Yevgen Prigozhin. It's a really cool name. Very, very, very cool. And this is the founder. And the leaders are actually Lieutenant Colonel Dmitry Utkin Wagner. Wagner here under Dmitry, Lieutenant Colonel Dmitry Utkin. Wagner is actually in bracket. So the other leader, because there are different, there are many leaders. The other leader is Colonel Konstantin Pikolov. I can live with that. I can live with Pikolov. Colonel Konstantin Pikolov. This is actually one of the leaders. The Russian leaders, they are Russians, and they lead the Wagner group. It's a private army. In the West, we have mercenaries. I think the same. There are private armies in America. There are private armies in the UK. I think Israel. There are probably private armies. Most militaries in Africa are now private armies. They belong to the president. They belong to the ruling party normally. And these parties, these political parties, actually, they are elections every 4 to 5 years in Africa. Africa actually hold election, but one party wins all the time. So that's how much power they have. If you keep winning election every time an election is called, only one party wins. That shows how much power you have. You see, if you have a lot of power, it really helps in keeping you in power. I mean, you can deal with your enemies very effectively. So African dictators are really, killing it. They're killing it. The power is really. The militaries are private. All the African military are private. Whoever is in government, that is his army. And there are some of the presidents, some of the political parties are polite about it. Some of the ruling parties are polite. Others are actually frank. They're open. They say, "This is my military. This is my army. I created it." So private army is not new. That's why I say, like now, at least we are becoming honest as capitalists. We are becoming more honest now, because in the past we used to tell the world, "Oh, we are public." Public means it's our army. It's for the many. The public means the many, and not the few. But I think we were. Maybe they told us the truth. Leave a comment below if they think the capitalists were telling us the truth when they said we are the country. You see, the country was ours. We own the country. You see, if something is yours, it means you own it. As citizens, actually, the country is it's your country. But as slaves, like I said, it's not your country. Whoever rules the country is his private asset. So capitalism gives a country to private rulers, like people like Putin, people like King Charles in Britain, people like these are actually people who rule for rulers. They rule. They are demonstrators. Presidents. They are rulers in their own rights, but they run the countries on behalf of somebody else who is rich. If there is rumors that Putin is so rich, the richer the head of state is, like here in the UK, Rishi Sunak is worth in excess of £200 million. Potentially, he can be really a ruler who is actually in his own right. You see, he's an administrator for rulers, for the ruling class, but he also is a ruler. This is actually the characteristic of the ruling class now, because even the servants, some of the servants are now promoted, like prime ministers, directors, CEOs, and barristers. These people are also so rich. Some of them are so wealthy that they now qualify as rulers. But if you win a lottery tomorrow, don't get me wrong. If you win 10 million tomorrow, you may be in debt today. You're going to play a lottery now. So there is hope. Even for the wicked, there is hope. There may be no rest, there may be no peace for the wicked, but there might be hope. You win a lottery today, if you win only 5 million, you're going to really join the upper class. You're going to just pack up your bag and leave. You just move out of the neighborhood. It's on your way to the top, becoming a ruler. So slaves have hope, because slaves can also, it's not all doom and gloom. So if you're a slave, try to put a smile on your face, because you know what tomorrow may bring. You may find one of the rulers who likes you. He can give you a job, paying maybe £1 million. Don't discard yourself. Don't neglect your potentials. Could happen. It has happened to some people. Look at footballers. Most of them were poor. They were slaves. And now they are masters. Look at Lewis Hamilton, Formula One, a black man just like me, a black man, because he came from Stevenage in England. His family was slaves. They were poor, and they found their way. They are now the masters. They are now the rulers. Hamilton is a ruler. He's now the slave master. I don't know. Leave a comment below if you support Hamilton. I do. Actually, the main reason I watch Formula One is because of Hamilton. So Hamilton is my master, and I'm proud to be his slave. Leave a comment below and let me know what you're thinking. You know, Hamilton is worth 180 million. I think, yeah, 180 million US dollar. And now, if you think that is not actually, what did I say? 380 million US dollars. That is how the net worth of Lewis Hamilton. Now, if you think that is not wealth, if you think Hamilton is not a master, a black man, so there is hope for black people. Look at Barack Obama and Michelle. They are now slave masters. I think combined wealth of Michelle Obama and Oprah Winfrey, Michael Jackson, rest in peace. So black people are on their way. Look at African dictators. They are multi-billionaires in Africa. So don't take African for granted. Don't take black people for granted. They are slave masters. They used to be slaves by default, not anymore. There are black masters. There are white slaves. So God help us. But there is hope for slaves. You know, don't give up hope. You could be, but I tell you, it's not really simple. Because there are, even though you are going to be a master, you are going to be, yeah, you're better off being, the better you are financially, the better off you are financially, the better. But like I said, wealth is not really the source of emancipation. I mean, if you want to get out of slavery, because you see, the thing is, there comes a time when slave masters will face the same fate. They are going to suffer. Whether you are rich or poor, whether you're a slave or master, you're going to. Right now is happening. We are reaching a situation where you don't know whether you're a master or not. It doesn't matter whether you are rich or poor. The world is changing very quickly. So wealth is now having very little effect in providing solace for masters or even grimaces or sadness. Sadness is going to replace what was actually seen as, glory, joy for the poor. I mean, for the few. I'm not suggesting for a moment that people, black slaves are miserable. They have their moments. I mean, a lot of slave people can run in the park freely. So everybody I'm trying to paint, they run in the park. What kind of slave is that? It's not as bad as that. But we are still slaves. Because even if you run in a park, but you can do whatever you like. If you look at life like that, then you will also agree that even white and black people who are masters are not entirely free, because they are living a life of apprehension, fear. They fear the poor, they fear the many. No peace for the wicked, for the masters. We are in the same hot soup. So what's the hope? With that, if you are rich, if you are a master, don't think you are more than who you are. In the end, I think there is an opportunity for the masters and slaves to start working together on their cultural statuses. Because if you have respect, you're not going to be so violent. You're not going to be so disrespectful. If you have respect for people, you are not going to fight them. You're going to love them. Love means respect. you love somebody, you don't fight them, you don't kill them. And that is a cultural gap, a crisis actually. It's a cultural crisis. Rich or poor, slave or master, we're in the same soup. So it's the time for slaves and masters to come together and identify a human problem. The human fate is the same. Rich or poor, call yourself whatever you like, citizen, leaders, slaves, masters, the same. We are a common fate. If we don't stop war, if we don't stop fighting, we are going to go extinct. That is 100% guaranteed. And so we can play games if we want. We are allowed to play. We are not really. We are allowed to play. Even slaves play. Even masters play. We are still humans. I mean, it's not all doom and gloom. There are moments when slaves can also have fun. And masters also having fun. They play. They don't work all the time. They fight and fight. Even those who are actually at war, sometimes there's something called ceasefire. Ukraine and Russia can have a ceasefire and go and have a party. They can even have a party together for a month, then go back to fight, if that is what they want to do. In that context, we live in a free world. You can do what you want to do, whether the thing is wrong or right. Certainly, that's what freedom means in a world which is imperfect. And that's what we've been trying to talk about. And I've been trying to look at this group. I found them to be very interesting. Cool name, Colonel Konstantin Pikolov. He's a Russian colonel. He's one of the leaders of the Wagner group. Very cool names. Very, very colorful. So you have dates of operation. When did they start? When did the Wagner group start? They started in 2014. They have been operating from 2014 up to the present time. They are still existing. So their origins, they began in 2014. Their headquarters is in St. Petersburg in Russia. Leave a comment below if you know where St. Petersburg is. St. Petersburg, I think, is the capital city of Russia. Leave a comment below and let me know. So the size of the military is actually 50,000 strong army as of December 2022. This is the figure from December 2022. There are 50,000 plus. That is their number, their strength, the size of the army. This increased from 8,000 in April 2022, and also from 6,000 in December 2017. It has been increasing. Their size has been increasing. Only 1,000. They were only 1,000 in March 2016. They started from only 250 men or maybe women. Their size in 2014 when they began, they were only 250. Now they are over 50,000 forces strong. So their allies are actually Russian armed forces. Russian separatist forces in the Donbas region. These are their allies. So Syrian armed forces in Syria. There's something called IRGC, the FACA, FACA, Libyan National Army, FADM, FAMA, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia. These are their allies, Russian allies. So opponents are armed forces of Ukraine, Islamic State al-Nusra Front, which started in 2014, and it was between 2014 and 2017. Tahrir al-Sham, Syrian National Army, Free Syrian Army, Syrian Democratic Forces. These are actually opponents of Russia and the Wagner Group. Coalition of Patriots for Change, Libyan Army, Ansar al-Sunnah, Nasrat al-Islam. So the battles and the wars they fought in the Crimean crisis between 2014 and 2022. War in the Donbass between 2024 and 2022, shoot down or battle of the Balsiv, Syrian War, the Syrian Civil War, 2015 to 2016, Latakia Offensive. These are actually some of the battle exploits. They made Northern Aleppo Offensive, Palmyra Offensive, March 2016. If you know any of these incidents, events, leave a comment below. The Central Syrian Campaign, Amma Offensive, Dia ez-Zor Offensive, Northwestern Syria, or campaign Battle of Kasham, Rif, Damash Offensive. They have been very, very busy actually. They have been fighting so many wars. Like I said, there's a lot of war going on. The ones in Ukraine is just one of the Operation Dawn of Idlib, South Sudanese civil war, military training and security. They have been training people in South Sudan. Republic of Congo, civil war, Bongboto massacre. These are some of their recorded events. And March 2022 attacks, Second Libyan Civil War, Western Libya campaign, Sudanese Revolution, Venezuelan presidential crisis and military training and security. They also do actually military training. Insurgent in Cabo, Delgado, Mali War. Mali is in West Africa. Mora massacre, Russian invasion of Ukraine, Battle of Donbass 2022, the battle of Popasna, Severodonetsk, Lysychansk, Bakhmut, Soledar. These are some of the places they went. They are designated as a terrorist group by Estonia. Some countries actually see them as terrorists. So they have a website called the PMC, Private Military Company. I think PMC stands for Private Military Company. PMC Wagner Center website. So you can actually, they're quite official. They are not really secret. They are very public. They're private. They're mercenaries. The Wagner Group, Russia, Romanized, also known as the PMC. PMC, I think, is Private Military Company. It's like a private company, actually. So the Wagner, Russia, Romanized with Wagner Private Military Company, yeah? It's a Russian paramilitary organization. They are Russian forces. They are paramilitary organization. They're in Russia. They're supported by the Russian government. Some people say they are owned by Putin, but nobody knows the actual truth. It's variously described. It is variously described as a private military company, PMC, a network of mercenaries, or a de facto private army of Russian President Vladimir Putin. Like I said, some people say it is actually a private army owned by the Russian President Vladimir Putin. The group operates beyond the law in Russia, where private military contractors are officially forbidden. So in Russia, there's a law forbidding. There's official law actually passed by the Russian government, which actually forbid private military. So so private military contractors like the Wagner is not supposed to operate in Russia, but it does. That is why he said you operate beyond the law. It's above the law. The law does not actually account for it. That is a typical behavior of a capitalist economic and political system. There are those who are rulers. Rulers are actually above the law. They can do whatever they like. We saw it in Britain under Boris Johnson when the Conservative government actually acted illegally in prorogating Parliament. Prorogation of Parliament is actually closing it down for whatever reason, supposed to be done legally, but Boris Johnson under the Conservative Party did it illegally. They were actually defeated. The court ruled that they were acting illegally. But in practice, they didn't even, nothing happened to them. And also during COVID-19, they broke the law. But because they had the money to pay the fine, like I said, nothing happened to them. While the Wagner group itself is not ideologically driven, various elements of Wagner have been linked to neo-Nazi and far-right extremism. Neo-Nazi, well, if you remember, if you know anything about neo-Nazi, leave a comment below, but I think there were right-wing extremists in Germany during Hitler. If you remember the massacre of the Jews, the Holocaust, the far right wing, and in many ways that is actually typical capitalism. Capitalism is neo-Nazi in its outlook because it contains the far right wing extremism. So it's actually what Russia is doing is evidence of globalization, which is a far right extremist or a far right dictatorship. That's what globalization is. So the Wagner group is linked to the neo-Nazi and far-right extremists who actually are very powerful. If it is true, then it's evidence that someone like Russian Putin being an extremist right wing, you begin to question if socialism and communism really exist, because these are capitalistic. These are actually globalization, the globalized capitalism, which is a far-right extremist agenda. The group came to prominence. Actually, far-right extremism created the cost of living. So the group came to prominence during the Donbas war in Ukraine, where it helped pro-Russian separatist forces of the self-declared Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republic from 2015 to 2014 to 2014. So that was when the world actually learned about the Wagner group. So they came to prominence during the Donbas war in Ukraine, where it helped pro-Russian separatist forces of the self-declared Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics from 2014 to between 2014 and 2015. So if you know anything about that incident, about that war, leave a comment below. And its contractors have reportedly taken part in various conflicts around the world, including the civil wars in Syria, Libya, Central African Republic, and Mali, often fighting on the side forces of forces aligned to the Russian government. So like I said before, they have operations around the world, and they are contracted to perform military operations. They are actually paid by the government. The states pay them a lot of money That's what contract mean. They are contractors, and report have always they indicate that they have taken part in various conflicts around the world, including the civil war in Syria, Libya, the Central African Republic, CAR, and Mali, and fighting on the side of forces aligned with the Russian government. Wherever Russia is, like such as now in Ukraine, these are actually fighters always fighting alongside Russia, and it may not surprise that is happening. The Wagner operatives have committed war crimes in areas where they are deployed, like in Ukraine or elsewhere. The accusations include rapes and robbery of civilians, and the torturing accused deserters. Because it operates in support of Russian interests, receives military equipment from the Russian Military Defense MOD, and uses installations of MOD for training. Wagner Group is frequently considered de facto unit of the MOD or Russia's military intelligence agency, the GRU. So it's actually part of the official military system of Russia, and the official military system of Russia, Russian Ministry of Defense, it should have been a public infrastructure. But like I said previously, capitalism is about private system, and it has always been operative. It's actually been operating everywhere. And even in places like Russia and China, this even under communism, even under socialism, it was actually capitalism. So communism never existed in substance, and socialism never existed in substance. Communism and socialism does not exist in substance, including in North Korea, where we now think, and Cuba, where we think they are different, they are the same. They only do that as a tactics to cover up. So the agenda for globalization have always been in progress. It didn't start yesterday with the fall of Berlin Wall, maybe in 1992, I can't remember when, 1996 probably, or 1992, I can't remember now. It didn't start then. It didn't start with the collapse of the Soviet Union, but it was always been there. The Cold War was actually fake. It was fake news, and this was actually mere political dramas. And now we are beginning to see the true colors of capitalism, the level of violence associated with capitalism, the military infrastructures, actually the savagery involved in warfares. And this is not to be denied given the evidence as you see them with this group called the Wagner Group. And it is widely speculated that the Wagner Group is used by the Russian government to allow for plausible deniability in certain conflicts, and to obscure from public the number of casualties and financial costs of Russia's foreign investment intervention. So it's like a smoke screen. Wagner Group is actually Russian government, and is actually camouflaged under a private instrument in infrastructure, and it has played a significant role in the 1922 Russian invasion of Ukraine, where, among other activities, it has been reportedly deployed to assassinate Ukraine leaders, and has widely recruited prisoners and convicts from frontline for frontline combat. So these are some of the records, some of the evidence, some of the information is actually seen. There are public information, there are public data. Anyone can access it wherever you are. It's nothing new. This is not actually intelligence report. These are actually public material You can access them online. In December 2022, Pentagon's John Kirby claimed Wagner Group as 50,000 troops fighters in Ukraine, including 10,000 contractors and 40,000 convicts. So the convicts are actually prisoners. Contractors are those who enter into operations freely. Contract actually imply freedom, and of course, freedom is always as a caveat. And others put the number of recruited prisoners at more than 20,000, with the overall number of PMC. PMC we have seen to mean private military company. The PMC's presence in Ukraine estimated at 20. The group is widely believed to be owned or financed by Yevgeny Prigozhin, a businessman with close links to Putin. That man has a name above all other names as far as Russia is concerned. The group is widely believed to be owned after years of denying links to the Wagner Group. Prigozhin admitted in September 2022 that he founded the paramilitary group. So he has actually said to have admitted that the group is his. So let us look at the origins and leadership. If you're happy, I'm going to look at this organization and try to leave a comment below what you think about this organization. It represents actually warfare, such as happened in Ukraine, the PMC Wagner Group. These are a private military company, Wagner Group, a Russian private military infrastructure. Some people can call it outfit, which is actually a normal. They have their own logo. They are called the Wagner logo, which is used in unofficial resources. If they are acting unofficially, they use one thing, and if they are acting officially, they probably don't use it. They probably use it. Leave a comment below if you know anything about the Wagner Group. The Wagner Group first appeared in Ukraine in 2014, where it participated in the annexation of the Crimea. The group was also active in 2014, fighting with Russia-backed separatists in the Luhansk region of Ukraine. So it all started in Ukraine. Their visibility, people began to learn about them in Ukraine, and it's so interesting. I only learned about them yesterday. As I've heard about them, but just might have ignored them. But because yesterday I was actually looking at debates in Parliament, so they were looking at. So yeah, they drew attention to it in a big way. So Dmitry Valerovich Utkin, a veteran of the First and Second Chechen Wars, reportedly found the group. Until 2008 or 2013, Utkin served as lieutenant colonel and brigade commander of a unit of special forces of Russia's main intelligence he was actually in the Russian military. This gentleman, I don't know how gentlemanly he is. Until 2008 or 2013, Utkin served as lieutenant colonel and brigade commander of the unit of special forces of Russia's main intelligence directorate, GRU. If you know anything about GRU, leave a comment below. Intelligence Directorate unit. The 700th independent Spetsnaz detachment of the Second Independent Brigade. So this is actually commando special forces of Russia, Spetsnaz. commandos, special forces. After leaving the military, he began working in 2013 for the Moran Security Group, a private company founded by Russian military veterans, which was actually involved. They were involved in security and training missions worldwide and specialized in security against piracy. Um, the same year, senior Moran security group managers were involved in setting up the Hong Kong-based Slovenic Corps, which headhunted contractors to protect oil fields and pipelines in Syria during its civil war. Utkin was deployed in Syria as a member of the Slovenic Corps, surviving its disastrous mission. Subsequently, Russia's Federal Security Services arrested some members of the Slovenic Corps for illegal mercenary activities. In 2021, the Foreign Policy Report noted the origin of the name Wagner to be unknown. Others say the group's name comes from Utkin's own call sign Wagner, reportedly after the German composer Richard Wagner, which Utkin is said to have chosen due to his passion for the Third Reich, Wagner being Adolf Hitler's favorite composer. So there's a direct correlation with, allegedly direct correlation in terms of passion, in terms of inspiration with Germany. As such, some believe he is a neo-Nazi, with the economic reporting that, with the economists reporting that that Utkin has several Nazi tattoos. Members of Wagner Group say Utkin is a road nova, a believer of Slavic native faith, and Radio Liberty cited insiders as saying that the leadership of the Wagner Group are followers of Slovenic native faith, a modern pagan new religious movement. And in August 2017, the Turkish newspaper Yeni Safak speculated that Utkin was possibly a figurehead for the company, while the real head of Wagner was someone else. Various elements of Wagner have been linked to white supremacists and neo-Nazi far-right extremists, such as Wagner's openly far-right and neo-Nazi Russian unit. And Wagner members have left neo-Nazi graffiti on the battlefield. These are some of the stories about the Wagner Group. However, Erica Gaston, a senior policy advisor at the United UN University Center for Policy Research, noted that the Wagner Group is not ideologically driven, but rather a network of mercenaries linked to the Russian security state. Russia denies the connection, and officially the group does not exist. In December 2016, Utkin was photographed with Russian President Vladimir Putin at a Kremlin reception given in honor of those who had been awarded the Order of Courage and the title Hero of the Russian Federation to mark the Day of Heroes of the Fatherland, along with Alexander Kuznetsov and Andrei Bogatov and Andrei Troshev. These were some of the Russian names. Kuznetsov, call sign Ratibor, was said to be the commander of Wagner's first reconnaissance and the assault company. Bogotov was the commander of the fourth reconnaissance and assault company. The Troshev and Troshev served as the company's executive director. A few days after Kremlin a few days after, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov confirmed the presence of Utkin at the reception, stating that Utkin was from the Novgorod region and had received the award but could not say for what, except that he was presumably for courage. So Peskov stated he was not aware how famous Utkin was. So this is some of the stories surrounding the leaders and the operators of the Wagner Group. It has been reported that Russian businessman Yevgeny Prigozhin sometimes called Putin chef because of his catering businesses that hosted dinners with Vladimir Putin, which Vladimir Putin attended for with foreign dignitaries, which has links with Wagner and Utkin, and with Utkin personally. So the businessman has been said to be the founder and the actual owner of the Wagner Group. So these are information to indicate the privacy of the estate. Prigozhin denied any communication with Wagner until September 2022, when he admitted having created the group in a post at we contact leave a comment below if you understand some of this word. So Prigozhin claimed, I cleaned the old weapon myself, sorted out the bulletproof vest myself, and found a specialist who could help me with this. From that moment, on May 1st, 2014, a group of patriots was born, which later came to be called the Wagner Battalion. This is in his own word. Previously, Prigozhin had sued Bellingcat, Medusa, and Echo of Moscow for reporting his links to the mercenary group. And in 2019, as the presence of Wagner PMC is in Africa was growing, a planned trip by Utkin to Rwanda was reportedly cancelled at the last moment. So Rwanda is also in the mix, and this is actually a far-right extremist group linking with Rwanda, a country in Africa. So this is capitalism and its operation. It's no surprise that Britain recently was trying to send refugees to Rwanda and pour money into Rwanda to build capital and infrastructure. This is what is happening up and down Africa, and these are actually militaristic, capitalistic mix involving Russian private militarism. And also, this are actually also in consistency with the privatized nature of the military, of the security agencies. I've been making these mentionings in the other videos. If you watch the other video, I talk about the private tendency of capitalism, but I can now tell you that this is actually capitalism going to where it began in the first place. It was a private project. It was a ruling dynastic project, which is now gone global. He was supposed to travel with Valery Zakharov, a Russian security advisor to the president of the Central African Republic. This is in Africa. Subsequently, it was thought that Utkin was withdrawn from the Wagner groups African operations due to its overexposure that was the result of the medal award ceremony at the Kremlin in 2016 and the United States sanctions imposed on him. Subsequently, Colonel Konstantin Alexandrovich Pikolov, call sign Muzzy, was said to have been put in charge of Wagner's African operations. According to another report, there was a change in leadership in the Wagner Group due to the changes in the methodology and direction of its work, with Utkin leaving the group and Konstantin Pikolov becoming the new head of the organization. Another theory was that Dmitry Utkin may have been killed as his phone number was no longer functioning and his regular trips from Krasnodar to St. Petersburg stopped. The Pikolov served as a military officer in Russia's experimental military unit numbered 99795, located in the village of the village of Storoyevo near St. Petersburg, which was tasked in part with determining the effects of radioactive rays on living organisms. Following his retirement, he continued to live on the military base at least until 2012 and ran a private detective agency. In autumn of 2014, along with a large group of Cossacks, he possibly took part in suppressing opponents of the Russian-supported president of Republika Srpska Milorad Dodik during the Republika Srpska general election in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Dodik won re-election. Between 2014 and 2017, Pikolov traveled several times to destinations near the Ukrainian border, sometimes on joining bookings with known Wagner officers. And in 2016, he ran for office in local council elections in the district of his military base near St. Petersburg on behalf of the pro-Kremlin Just Russia party. However, his participation was denied by Russian Central Electoral Committee, possibly due to his criminal record, as his name is listed on the Central Bank blacklist, with a note that he was a suspect in money laundering, although his current criminal file is blank. According to Bellingcat, this could mean either that the suspicion did not result in criminal charges or that the records were purged. Former employees of Prigozhin interviewed on the condition of anonymity by Bellingcat stated Pikolov was known to have taken part in military operations both in Ukraine and in Syria. Next time, we are going to talk about the organization itself. If you know anything about the Wagner Group, leave a comment below. This is part of the information indicating that there is war in Ukraine, between Russia and Ukraine, and also that capitalism is fully operational in Russia, with the private militarism in operation as being actually active in Ukraine and the other different theaters of war across the globe. are being owned privately and actually funded by the Russian state. And this is actually a feature of capitalism across the globe, as we see in Russia, in its militaristic composition, and then we see its influences in countries like Rwanda and parts of Africa, and it we see the features as as being similar to other mercenaries across the world, including in America, Europe, and probably the Middle East. Um, Thank you for watching my video, and keep thinking about the cost of living and war in Ukraine. Keep on thinking about the cost of living and capitalism. You want to solve a problem, you have to understand how it works. It's a so great source of resources for people to prepare after the cost of living as a crisis. We expect more to continue to up and down the globe because globalization is here to stay. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel if you like the video. Click like and leave a comment below. And see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye bye.